The groom, Thomas Nevada Smith, was furious. Nobody called him Thomas or Tom, always only Nevada. He himself did not understand where this name came from because he was born in Colorado. One of his panicking bridesmaids has just informed him that his future wife, Pillar Landau, has chickened out and wants to talk to him. The fact that this mini-drama happened less than an hour before they were supposed to say their vows added to the stress he was feeling. Running to the back of Cornerstone Community Church, which was quickly filling with their families and friends, he saw Pillar, surrounded by anxious bridesmaids, sitting on a small stone bench, sobbing uncontrollably. He found it interesting that as soon as he approached the small group, all the bridesmaids disappeared, leaving them alone. "Pillar, darling, what's going on? Everyone is already inside and waiting for us. Tell me what happened." He believed that this was normal nervousness and that everything that had happened could be easily corrected and the ceremony could proceed. But everything turned out to be not so simple. "Oh, Nevada, I don't know if I'm ready for all this." "Well, honey, no one is ever completely ready for marriage. Your nerves are normal. That's not the point. I'm only 18 years old, and I'm not sure I'm ready to be with one man for the rest of my life. I mean, it could last 60 years. This threw Nevada off balance, and he sat down on the bench next to her in despair. He was only 23, but 5 years older than her. His friends regularly teased him that he was robbing the cradle. Pillar looked very mature for her age, and they were both deeply in love with each other, so he never thought about the age difference. "Honey, you know that I've never been with a guy until I met you, and now we're going to be together forever. I'm not sure I can do this for the rest of my life. You understand?" He didn't really understand, and frankly, with less than 30 minutes left before the ceremony, he was thinking about how upset Pillar's parents would be after spending over $25,000 on a wedding that might not happen, not to mention the fact that all of his family traveled 2,000 miles to attend. He hugged her, and her tears left a large wet stain on his black Brooks Brothers tuxedo. He begged and cajoled her for over 15 minutes. He tried everything, but nothing helped. The more he tried to reason with her, the more hysterical Pillar became. After a few minutes had passed, he said, half jokingly and half out of disappointment, "If we are talking about monogamy, then what if I give you a one-time hall pass?" Pillar immediately stopped crying and asked, "What is it?" "You know, this is a one-time exception to the marital fidelity clause." "Really, you'll do that?" "Of course, baby. We can talk about this later, but now let's go and get married." And he led Pillar towards the church and their future together. Someday her father will thank him for saving him so much money, he thought and laughed to himself. Of course, in the chaos of the wedding, reception, honeymoon, and the beginning of their life together, they never spoke about it again. 21 years later, Nevada Smith was lying on the patio bed they had bought a few years ago, happy. He tried to understand how time passed so quickly. All 3 of his children were now teenagers, and the eldest, Suzanne, was going to college in the fall. He and Pillar were quite successful and were at the peak of their careers. They even began planning in earnest for their retirement, which they both hoped would happen within 15 years. In fact, they had been planning their retirement since the day they got married, but with children, a mortgage, and other hassles along the way, there was always something else to spend the money on. But now they were confident they could achieve their retirement goals. Yes, it was a good life, and he believed that the best was yet to come. The only fly in my eye was Pillar's absolute terror of turning 40. Her birthday was less than 2 months away, and he knew it was worrying her a lot. Nevada understood this because, frankly, for him, turning 40 a few years ago was also traumatic. Aging was a strange concept to him. Having passed his 40th birthday, he no longer thought about it. He began to understand and appreciate the perspective that aging offered him. He was happy with his choice of life path and was looking forward to the future. He saw Pillar leave the house and walk towards him, carrying glasses of wine, which she promised to fill. They both loved the patio bed, and when the kids weren't home, they spent many a warm Southern California night making love and falling asleep with their naked bodies wrapped around each other on that very bed. Sitting down on the canopy bed, Pillar carefully handed Nevada his glass. She sat silently, looking at the pomegranate liquid in her glass. "You're thinking about it again, honey, aren't you?" "Yeah, Nevada, that seems to be all I can think about lately." She sighed heavily, and he saw a small tear appear in the corner of her deep chocolate-brown eyes that he loved so much. It was those eyes that made him fall in love with her the first time he looked into them. Nevada said with sympathy, "It's very unpleasant for me to see you in this state, honey. Please tell me how I can help. Like I said, I'll throw the biggest party of your life or completely ignore your birthday, depending on what you want. Just please tell me, what do you want?" Pillar leaned back into a semi-sitting position on one of the many large, multicolored pillows at the head of the bed and spoke seriously, looking him straight in the eyes. "Actually, I think I know what I want for my birthday in Nevada. I've been thinking about this a lot lately. I want to use my hall pass." He didn't answer for what seemed like hours, but in reality it was only a minute. But precisely at this moment, time stopped for Nevada. His first thought was to admit ignorance of what a hall pass was, and then to further his ignorance as to whether he had ever granted her such a pass. But then he changed his mind. "Pillar, you're not serious, are you? You must be joking." She carefully placed her glass in the glass holder built into the headboard of the bed and spoke. "I'm absolutely serious, Thomas. I'm going to take advantage of the hall pass you promised me on our wedding day. Will you really go back on your promise?" Shit, he thought silently. "Pillar, I remember my promise, but I also remember the context in which I made it. Haven't I earned your loyalty over the past 21 years? Haven't I proven my love and devotion to you and our family? You are a very devoted husband and father, and I am lucky that you love me, but this is not about you in any way, shape, or form. It's about me. I need to feel like I'm still an attractive and desirable woman. But you are very attractive and desirable to me. You've always been like this. How many other couples do you know who have been married for over 20 years and still make love 3 or 4 times a week? And please don't insult me by saying that I'm only talking about your attractiveness because I feel like it, and I certainly don't make love to you because I have to. Why now, after 21 years? Apart from the fact that you chickened out 30 minutes before the wedding, I gave you a hall pass because you told me you were worried that you wouldn't be able to be monogamous for the rest of your life." An obvious question occurred to Nevada, one that he had never even thought about before. "Look me in the eyes, Pillar, and tell me that you have been faithful all these years." Without hesitation, Pillar looked him straight in the eye and spoke decisively. "Nevada, I'm offended that you'd ask me that, but no, I've never been unfaithful to you. I didn't even do anything that wouldn't pass my husband's test. You hurt my feelings. Well, I'm sorry as hell for asking, but you're going to cheat on me, so I thought it was a fair question under the circumstances. It won't be cheating, honey, because you will know about it." "Pillar, are you suddenly brain dead? Just because you tell me you're going to have sex with another man doesn't mean it's not cheating. Do you understand that?" He was incredulous. "Look, let's come back to this later because—" "Nevada, do you have to be so vulgar?" "Pillar, what you're proposing is, of course, vulgar, but as I've already tried to explain, I didn't initially give you a pass to the hall so that you might somehow try sex with someone else." She started to protest again, but he simply shut her up with a wave of his hand. "You have proven to me that you have been a faithful, loving wife for 21 years, so why can't you do this for another 21 years? There's something else going on, and I want to know the truth. Don't I deserve at least this?" Confused but still determined, Pillar hesitated for a moment before speaking. "Okay, Nevada, but before I explain everything in more detail, you must understand that this has nothing to do with you. This is all because of me. Do you believe me? I believe you think so, but how does your ruining our marriage have nothing to do with me?" "Oh, honey, I'm not ruining our marriage. Everything will be fine with us. It's just something I feel I need to do for myself. Why can't you understand? Listen to me carefully. Pillar, if you do this, we will divorce immediately." She waved her hand at him dismissively. "Stop being so melodramatic, Nevada. You won't divorce me." Pillar, I'm thinking of filing for divorce just because you suggested this idea, and damn it, I will if you get to that point of insanity. I was hoping that we would be adults and it wouldn't come to this, but Nevada, before talking to you, I consulted with a family law lawyer. Do you know what your life will be like after divorce? Nevada's jaw dropped and he felt sick. He fought the bile in his throat as he asked incredulously. Indeed, you threaten to take my family away from me if I don't allow it, right? Of course not, honey. I'm just pointing out the facts of life. I will get custody of the children and the house until Pat turns 18. In addition to alimony, you will have to pay me alimony for 10 years because you earn much more than me. I'll get half your pension because I don't have any. Remember how many years ago we decided to put all our efforts into your plan because it was so much better than mine. And you'll still have to pay most of the kids' college expenses. You're not joking, are you, Pillar? I'll sue for adultery and get. You really should look into our state's family laws. Adultery is not even grounds for divorce. Our assets will be divided 50-50, and when Pat graduates from school and turns 18, the house will be sold and the capital divided between us. So now that you know what divorce costs in monetary terms, not to mention the psychological cost to your children, is this what you want to do to us? So, for me to spend one weekend with another man, is that the price you are willing to pay? Yes, that's exactly what I'm ready to do, you stupid bitch, he growled in response to her ultimatum. Nevada, don't ever call me that. Listen to me very carefully. I could file for divorce tomorrow just because I don't like the color of your shirt, and everything I just explained to you will still happen. And there's not a damn thing you can do to stop it, so keep your mouth shut. It's going to happen, so you better get on board quickly. So I'm entitled to a pass too. Of course not, Nevada. Firstly, I never promised it to you, and secondly, if I catch you looking at another woman, I will deprive you of your manhood and then divorce you so quickly that you won't have time to come to your senses. He was speechless. He looked at the woman who had once been his beloved wife, now standing with her hands on her hips and grinning. Nothing more could be said, so he simply stood up and left. The children realized that something was wrong between their parents that evening. They were acutely aware that their mother and father had not said a word to each other the entire evening. They didn't even look into each other's eyes. Near bedtime, Nevada sat in the family room with a full glass of Jim Beam in his hand, staring blankly at the TV that wasn't even on, trying to process what had happened to his marriage and life over the past couple of hours. Pillar passed by on her way upstairs and sweetly told him she was going to bed. Nevada followed her about an hour later, finishing his bourbon and heading to the master bedroom out of habit. The door was closed and locked. In 21 years of marriage, this has never happened before. My first instinct was to break down the door and throw Pillar out the window. Luckily, when he came to his senses, he simply turned around and headed back to the family room, to the pull-out sofa. The next morning, he woke up from a restless sleep. His head ached, his throat was dry and raw, and he was still wearing the rumpled clothes he'd worn the day before. He, like a condemned man, climbed the stairs. When he reached the master bedroom, the door was open. Then he realized that the house was empty. Of course, today is Monday, the children are at school, his wife is at work, and looking at his watch, he realized that he was already an hour late for work. He quickly sent a text message to his boss, saying that he would be away for a couple of days due to family problems. Nevada spent over 30 minutes in a scalding hot shower, unsuccessfully trying to wash away yesterday. It took him another hour and a half to finish getting dressed, because he involuntarily stopped every few minutes, trying to comprehend what had happened. He spent almost the entire morning and afternoon in the same state. The only thing he accomplished all day was making an appointment with a lawyer the next day and calling the owner of the detective company they used at work for preliminary and annual fiduciary background checks. When the kids got home, they asked him what was going on, and he brushed them off, saying that he and his mom had just had a fight and everything would be fine. He told them to go do their homework and not worry about it. But they were teenagers and didn't buy it for a second. Suzanne just stared at him, then shook her head and walked away. Around 4 o'clock, Pillar called him on his mobile. He decided to send it to voicemail. When he listened to it, he was amazed. "Hello, honey, it's me. If you get home before me, don't start dinner. I'll grab some pizza from Antonio's on the way home. I love you, bye. There was a pleasant note in her voice. She spoke like a woman who doesn't care about anything in the world. Unlike his wife, Nevada had the weight of the world on her shoulders. He spent the rest of the day again in the chair with his good friend JB. He didn't want to get drunk, because in that state he didn't know what he could do to Pillar. On the other hand, he did not want to meet her sober either. He settled for a slight buzz and a warm feeling in his stomach. He tried unsuccessfully to sort out his emotions. He alternated between rage, shock, disbelief, and incredibly heavy sadness. In the end, he decided to behave according to Pillar's behavior, at least until the morning conversation with the lawyer. Besides, the children were already on edge, and there was no point in aggravating the problem. When Pillar burst into the house with the pizza, she was beaming with a smile and happiness. She carried it throughout dinner and the rest of the evening. Nevada behaved accordingly. They continued their usual pleasant conversations as if yesterday had never happened. Steve and Pat seemed to accept that everything was okay, but Nevada didn't think Suzanne felt that way. She looked alternately at her mother and at her father, as if looking for hidden signs of discord. After the kids went to their rooms for the night, doing God knows what on their electronic devices, Nevada returned to his chair with another glass of bourbon. When the kids were little, he and Pillar had practically police control over their internet access, but now they decided it was better for them not to know what their teenagers were doing. In addition, he was an account holder in their bundled services and had a feature where he could detect everyone's activity. Wait, he had access to everything that everyone else did. Just as he was about to jump out of his chair and rush to the computer, Pillar literally flew into the family room and jumped into his lap. She pecked him on the lips. "See, it wasn't that hard, right, Nevada?" A dark, angry cloud crossed his face, but he allowed his indignation to subside. He remembered her lawyer's prediction again. "You know, Pillar, you didn't answer my question last night. I can't believe you made this decision on the spur of the moment, so tell me why now." Pillar was confident that she had the upper hand and was firmly in control of the situation, so she simply told him the truth. "It's true that I'm afraid of getting old. This is about most of why I should do this for myself. But there's another gentleman at work, and he and I kind of connected. We talked and came to a mutual decision to spend one weekend together. Oh, and by the way, it's next weekend." Nevada noticeably tensed and almost threw Pillar off his lap. "Now stop acting like a teenager. Go to bed and make love to me. I'm sorry I didn't let you into the bedroom last night, but I needed to show you what you're giving up in a divorce." She looked at him hopefully. "Who is this, Pillar? This doesn't concern you. Now forget everything and go to bed." She lifted him from the chair and, taking his hand, led him upstairs. Nevada simply agreed because he didn't think anything good would come of further arguing. He was the first one in bed, and Pillar came out of the bathroom wearing nothing but her best smile. Damn it, she was still a beautiful woman. It was a shame it had to end so badly. "I'm sorry, Pillar, but this won't happen today," and he rolled away from her side of the bed. "Indulge yourself as you want, but you won't be able to refuse me for long. I know how excited you are." She said this in a deliberately pouty voice. Nevada realized she was probably right. Perhaps he should reconsider, because he is likely to face a long, dry spell. However, his pride did not allow this. What a loss. He pretended to be asleep until he was sure that Pillar was asleep, and then sat down at the computer. He didn't need a private investigator's license to find what he was looking for. His name was Carl Malden. Nevada had already met him once at a company dinner, but it was a harmless meeting. He made a mental note that he would pass the information on to investigators in the morning. The only thing that was unusual about Tuesday morning was Suzanne's death glares again as everyone left the house, including Nevada. Only he was not heading to work, but to Miss Nessa Sand's family law office. After some introductory pleasantries and a declined offer of coffee, they got down to business. Nevada told us, Sand everything in detail, including the fact that he hired investigators and why he did it. He also told her the name Carl Malden. When he finished, she asked him a few follow-up questions. She was silent for a few moments, chewing on the end of her pen and tapping her finger on the table. She then proceeded to present to Nevada the facts of life in the no-fault state, and the picture was not pretty. Nevada asked indignantly, "Miss Sand, why am I the loser? I mean, she's the one who's destroying our family." It's difficult for me to answer this question. No-fault laws were not created to specifically disadvantage husbands and fathers. And you must remember that, despite the fact that this is the 21st century, there are many more deceived wives and mothers sitting opposite me than vice versa. The main goal of a no-fault state is to protect the interests of children who may be involved in the process. Secondly, it greatly simplifies the process. I don't want to offend you, but why should the government interfere in a couple's marriage, just because they can't handle their own shit and one wants to blame the other? However, the only thing your wife can be wrong about is the issue of custody. If you and your wife cannot agree on joint custody, the court may, based on the ages of your children, allow them to choose which parent to live with. But I must tell you that in the vast majority of cases, custody goes to the mother. Suzanne is 18 and can choose what she does without the jurisdiction of a court. Yes, but it still makes me furious. I'm warning you, Mr. Smith, don't do anything stupid. What your wife told you is the best-case scenario for what happens in a divorce. Things will be much, much worse for you if you threaten or commit any violence towards her or Mr. Malden. By the way, if your private investigation firm does anything illegal, you may be subject to civil liability for their actions, so be careful. You can, of course, give Mrs. Malden all legally obtained evidence of her husband's infidelity. The law does not prohibit this, but the main word here is legally obtained. I'll prepare the papers to give to your wife at work on Monday morning. You can do this very publicly and awkwardly, but I assure you, this will be the only satisfaction you will get from this whole process. Sorry for being blunt. Are you sure you still want to continue? Yes, I'm not going to live with what she does. Mr. Fulton Smith, you are either the bravest or the stupidest person I have ever met. I think time will tell. Is your wife vindictive? A few days ago, I would have said no, but now I'm not sure. Okay, then here's the thing: I need you to protect yourself and your finances, and you need to do it by Monday morning. It's not as difficult as it seems, but it will take some time. So start today if there is something you can do that will be subtle, but wait until Monday for anything that will be noticeable. She handed him the list and discussed its contents in detail. Unless you tell me otherwise, I will order her to be served at 11 hours on Monday morning. And the last reminder, under no circumstances should you even get into a verbal argument with your wife before Monday. This will only make your life more difficult. And again, do not do anything stupid. I'm serious. I'll drop you as a client if you even sneeze on her. You act like you expect me to do something stupid. Sorry, Nevada, but you're a man, so you're not that smart. And usually by this time, the deceived husband is either crying like a child or plotting revenge. You are too calm about this, and frankly, it scares the living daylights out of me. I sincerely hope that everything works out for you. For a moment, she spoke almost humanly. She stood up and shook his hand. Good luck, Mr. Smith. I will be in touch. As Nevada drove home, he asked himself why he was so calm. He decided that the whole point was that he had already decided on a plan of action. He had no illusions about the impact divorce would have on his life and the lives of his children, but he was confident that he was doing the right thing. He knew for sure that now it did not matter whether Pillar continued her attempt or not. He couldn't be married to her anymore. He sincerely believed that it was Pillar who destroyed their family, not him. So there was nothing more to be nervous or doubtful about. Nevada took his lawyer's advice to heart and was nothing but pleasant to Pillar for the rest of the week. He was proud of his acting skills, but the only thing he couldn't do was have sex with her. Pillar tried with all her might to seduce him, and at some point playfully accused him of becoming gay, but to no avail. He managed to dissuade her, saying that he would think about it when this is all over. Pillar took this as a positive sign, assuming he meant after her weekend, and nothing more was said until Friday evening. Nevada, I'm leaving. He ignored her. He debated with himself whether he should make another attempt to stop her, but decided not to. Goodbye, Pillar. He said this firmly and with a finality, the meaning of which she did not understand at all. Relax, darling. I'll be back home on Sunday evening, and then, I promise, it will all be over, and I'll be your loving and faithful wife for the next 21 years. She laughed cheerfully and walked out the door. Nevada closed his eyes for a minute. He sighed, took another sip of his drink, and prepared to move on with his life. He looked towards the door and saw Suzanne standing there with tears streaming down her cheeks. You heard that, didn't you? Yes, Dad, but I knew about it before, because last week I overheard a phone conversation that Mom was having. What are you going to do? Come here, sit down, and let's talk about this. He moved to the sofa and patted the pillow next to him. Sorry for being so blunt, honey, but I'm filing for divorce. Your mother will receive notice on Monday. She sat down next to him and began to cry more openly. I guess there's really no other way to deal with this, right, Dad? No, baby. I'm sorry it's going to be so hard for all of us. How do you think your brothers will handle this? Honestly, Dad, they're teenage boys, and as long as their food supply chain doesn't get disrupted, they'll be fine. What about you, Dad? Can you handle it? No, sweetie, it's unlikely. I'm so sorry this is happening to you, Dad. I love you, and I'll help you get through this, I promise. And she just squeezed him as hard as she could and started crying quietly on his shoulder. I promise. On Saturday morning, Nevada told Steve and Pat what was going on. They were, of course, saddened. Pat asked where they would live, and Nevada replied that it would probably be right here, in their house with their mother. Steve stood up and said, well, this is probably for the best, because Mom still cooks much better than you, and headed to his room with his brother. At least he smiled when he said it. Nevada laughed sardonically and went back into his thoughts. Later that evening, around 9:30 p.m., after the boys had gone to their rooms, Suzanne returned downstairs to talk to her father. Dad, don't think I'm selfish, but do you think I can go to the University of Southern California in the fall semester? Yes, baby, I'm sure. You may have to find a part-time job to help, but one way or another, Mom and I will make sure you can go. I promise. Dad, why is she doing this to us? I can't believe my mother would do something like that to her own family. Suzanne was in tears and very emotional. I mean, hall pass? Why does she think this is normal? You know, honey, when she first approached me with this question, I thought it was about the promise I made to her on our wedding day, but then I realized that it was just an excuse she was offering to justify the fact that she would have done anyway. This is the part that really destroyed our marriage. If she didn't have the hall pass excuse, she'd probably just make an excuse. If you really loved me, she was going to do this no matter what. Sorry for my language, Dad, but this is just the act of a slut. Nevada smiled bitterly and then became serious. Listen, Suzanne, I want to tell you something. I don't know exactly why, but I feel like I should tell you this. In the 21 years we've been married, I have never, not once, even come close to cheating on your mother. I don't think men are naturally monogamous, so this is the most valuable gift a husband can give his wife. I just assumed your mom felt the same way. Promise me something, honey. Never marry a man whose ability to be faithful to you doubt. You shouldn't get married if you doubt yourself either. Nevada was lost in his own thoughts for a second. Looking back, I think I should have taken my own advice. Your mother told me, even though it was only 30 minutes before the wedding, that she doubted her ability to be faithful, and I ignored it. Maybe I should have just walked away at that point. The only problem is that then I wouldn't have you or your two hungry brothers, so I can't say that I wasted the last 20-odd years of my life. But her betrayal still cuts like a knife. Just at that moment, the doorbell rang. Nevada stood up to answer, Suzanne close on his heels. Opening the door, he saw two uniformed police officers standing on the porch. Sorry to bother you, sir. Are you Nevada Smith? Yes, officer. Did something happen? Who is this girl with you? This is my daughter, Suzanne. It's better if we talk in private, sir. Nevada had an uneasy feeling, but he knew it had something to do with Pillar. He felt that Suzanne was already an adult and had a right to hear what would happen next. She's an adult, an officer, and I'd like her to stay. Well, I'm sorry to tell you, Mr. Smith, that your wife was seriously injured this evening. She is currently at Memorial Hospital undergoing surgery. You need to go to the hospital immediately. Oh my God, Suzanne gasped, standing behind Nevada. Did she have an accident? No, sir, it was a crime. I really can't tell you more about it. However, there are detectives at the hospital who want to talk to you. Good evening, sir. And they went back to their patrol car. Nevada turned to face Suzanne, who had her hands over her mouth and her eyes wide with fear. Sonny, you will go with me to the hospital. Go and tell your brothers that you and I are leaving for a while, but don't tell them where or why just yet. First, I want to get more information. She rushed up the stairs, taking them 2 steps at a time. 5 minutes later, they were on their way. When they arrived at the hospital, security immediately directed them to the operating room waiting area and informed them that a doctor would be visiting them shortly. Nevada and Suzanne were stunned. Confusion and anxiety are a normal state for relatives of loved ones in their situation. The minutes crawled by like hours. Mr. Smith? Asked a tall, emaciated man in an equally shabby suit. Nevada looked up and saw 2 men who were obviously the detectives the uniformed police officers had told him about. This is me, and this is my daughter, Suzanne. Anything you want to tell me, you can tell her. No, sir, I can't. My name is Detective Lieutenant Cipriano. He quickly opened and closed his badge in his wallet and returned it to his suit pocket. I need to talk to you alone. Please come with me. My partner, Detective Bonnell, will speak with your daughter. Nevada followed Cipriano to a quiet part of the hallway. Without preamble, Lieutenant Cipriano asked him where he was that evening around 8 o'clock in the evening. I was at home, talking with my daughter. My 2 sons were also with us. Nevada was no fool. He understood perfectly why Cipriano asked this question. What did your wife do with? He paused and looked at his notes. With Mr. Carl Malden? For a moment, he considered lying to the detective to minimize the embarrassment for the family, but then he decided, hell, she made her bed and can lie in it. He sighed sadly and said to Cipriano, Malden is her boyfriend, and the 2 of them spent the weekend together. He practically spat it out. He was so disgusted, and every minute he became more and more angry with his wife. Having his phone constantly vibrating in his pocket didn't help his mood either. Lieutenant Cipriano didn't even blink. We guessed it was something like this, so I guess you understand why I'm talking to you. Yes, sir, I understand, but I had nothing to do with what happened to them. What happened? They were leaving the restaurant, they were attacked by 2 unknown men, and both were severely beaten, it seems, with baseball bats. I believe your daughter will confirm your story, but we will definitely talk to you again in a more formal setting. If you don't have an attorney, I strongly encourage you to find one. Cipriano handed Nevada a business card and left without further comment. Holy crap, this must be bad, and he went back to be with Suzanne. Suzanne was in tears and jumped up and hugged Nevada when he returned. Dad, what's happening? I'm so scared now. The man asked me where you were earlier. They think you had something to do with what happened to Mom, don't they? Honey, it's obvious that your mother and her boy Toy, for that matter, were very badly hurt. And yes, the police think I had something to do with it. Where are the doctors? We really need to find out what's going on. Nevada's anger was growing, and he was afraid that he would soon lose control of himself. He needed to remain calm, if only to prevent Suzanne from completely breaking down. A few minutes later, a short, slightly plump woman in blood-spattered surgical clothing entered the room and introduced herself as Dr. Mason. I was the main trauma surgeon who treated your wife. She's stable now, but it was very close. Jesus. Doctor, please tell me. What's wrong with my mother? Will she be okay? The traumatized Suzanne interjected. Tell us what's going on. Mr. Smith, Miss Smith. Pillar was badly beaten. The most serious injury requiring immediate surgery was a fractured skull. As a result of the injury and hemorrhage in the skull, significant swelling of the brain occurred, and we urgently needed to relieve the pressure. Oh my God! Suzanne had completely lost her composure and sat with her head in her hands, sobbing hysterically. Dr. Mason focused her attention on Nevada. Mr. Smith, forgive me for being so blunt, but this is not her only serious injury. She has two broken vertebrae in her lower back. We call them the lumbar vertebrae, or L4 and L5 vertebrae. We don't think there is much damage to the spinal cord or the nerve roots connected to them, but we can't be sure until the swelling goes down and we can get a better look at them. We're not sure she'll need surgery, but it's highly likely. She also has numerous other injuries, including a fracture of the ulna and radius bones of her right arm. Forensic experts would call it a defensive injury, likely caused by her trying to block blows to her head. There are many other injuries that are not so serious. I am telling you this not to scare you, but to prepare you for the fact that your wife will need extensive care after a fairly long hospital stay. Suzanne just wailed louder and louder as Dr. Mason listed her mother's injuries. Can we see her? This makes no sense. She was placed in a medically induced coma to reduce brain swelling and will likely be unconscious for several days. I would advise that before you leave, you contact the NICU today and give them your contact details so they can give you any updates on her condition. I'm very sorry, sir. And she left. She and Suzanne did everything as the doctor ordered and went home. It was already after midnight, but they woke up the boys so that they could come down to them and tell them what had happened. To say they were shocked would be a gross understatement. Nevada thought there might be something wrong with him because he felt absolutely no grief over what happened to his wife. Perhaps it was a defense mechanism, but he felt that, given the circumstances, he should have felt more emotion. The three children were traumatized and inconsolable. Why didn't he feel it? He knew the answer. Anger at what his wife had done to her family overpowered all other emotions. She did it herself. All the blame lay with her. He had many decisions to make regarding his next steps, but they could wait. He remembered the calls to his phone and checked it. The voicemail was full, and all the calls were from the same number. It was his private investigator. In his excitement, he forgot that he had assigned them to monitor his wife's activities throughout the weekend. Despite the late hour, Nevada called Bart Hudson, the owner of a private investigator firm. Hudson answered the phone on the first ring. Without any preamble, Bart Hudson said with venom, "Listen carefully, Mr. Smith. If I find out that you have anything to do with what happened tonight, I will personally kill you. Do you understand me?" "Hush, hush, Bart. I have nothing to do with this. Do you really think I would hire you to watch me attack my own wife? This has already happened, more than once. This is a common trick to divert attention. God, what a fucking mess this is. Look, Mr. Smith, if we're being honest, yes, they had sex together. We have video of them in a motel parking lot on a Friday night having sex on the hood of Malden's car. Not very subtle for those who are allegedly cheating for the first time. But that's not why I'm trying to contact you. I have excellent video footage of the entire attack taken by my team following them at the time. Moreover, I think we can give the police clues about the identity of the attackers. I am required by law to hand over everything I have to the police as soon as possible, but I wanted you to know this in advance. Shit, I forgot to mention you to the detective who talked to me at the hospital. Damn, this won't look very good. Look, Bart, let me contact Detective Cipriano and give him your contact information. I'll do it as soon as we hang up. Okay, but if I don't hear from him soon, I'll go to the police myself with everything I have. I'm not going to lose my license because of you, so call now. My first statement still stands, Mr. Smith." And he passed out. Shit, crap, it's getting worse and worse. Nevada took Cipriano's business card out of his pocket and called the cell phone number on it, expecting a voicemail answer. Cipriano responded immediately. Detective, this is Nevada Smith. We talked this evening at the hospital. I know who you are, Mr. Smith. Why are you calling? Cipriano had been working for a long time and believed that another guilty person would try to offer some other flimsy excuse in favor of his innocence. I have to tell you something and provide some information. I'm afraid it won't be very good for me, but it's true. I'm a busy man, Smith. What's the matter? I forgot to tell you something important. I hired a private investigator to follow my wife this weekend. Cipriano exhaled noisily and said something that Nevada could not decipher. Yes, but I just got off the phone with Bart Hudson. I know Bart. He told me that he had video, audio, and information about eyewitnesses of the attack on my wife and her friend. He said this might help identify the attackers. Do you need his number? No, I have it. Good night, Mr. Smith. Well, that was another matter, and the conversation ended. This surprised him, but did not shock him. Anyone who has worked at work for any length of time can no longer be shocked. Nevada and his children spent Sunday in a semi-lucid state. He called the hospital several times to get the news. Eventually, he was told not to call again and that they would inform him of any changes in her condition. They also said that there was no point in coming to see her because they would not even be allowed into Pillar's room. Nevada's first call on Monday morning was to Nessa Sand to inform his lawyer what was going on. Bad news must travel fast because before he started explaining the reason for his call. Damn it, Mr. Smith, I asked you not to do anything stupid. If you have anything to do with this, help me. Nevada interrupted angrily. I'm tired of people blaming me, Miss Sand. I have nothing to do with this. You have to believe me. Nevada didn't think she would actually believe him, but he told her what he wanted to do anyway. I've been in this business for a long time, Mr. Dennis Smith, but this is the first time for me. I just want to make sure I understand you completely. You still want a divorce, but you just want to delay serving your wife until she comes to her senses. Do you want her to be treated at the hospital? Forgive me for saying this, but you are a cold-blooded son of a bitch. Maybe, but it's no more cold-blooded than what she did to me. So will you do it? Yes, you are a client. Just let me know when. To change the subject, Mr. T. Smith, I think you need a criminal defense lawyer. I don't do this myself, but I know a couple of good ones. Do you need their numbers? I think it won't hurt. And he copied several names and numbers that she read to him. Nevada began to really worry when 3 of his children came to him after lunch, having run away from school early. No one said anything, but he knew why they were all staring at him. Guys, you have to believe me. I have nothing to do with this, I swear to you. At that moment, Nevada himself broke down. All 3 children hugged him and cried with him. At least he was pretty sure they believed him. Nevada was now sweating with fear. This could become very unpleasant for him when Pillar's family finds out about this. Luckily, they didn't live nearby, but still, he decided to call her parents, which he did, but it was not pleasant at all. He didn't waste time. He told them everything and didn't embellish anything. Her father began to press him, but Nevada simply hung up and refused to answer subsequent calls. Numerous voicemails left by her parents were accusatory and threatening. Maybe I should have just given him $25,000. Nevada was sure that he had better call one of the lawyers whose names he got from his lawyer before the situation got out of control. He was about to do this when Detective Cipriano appeared on the threshold. Mr. Pizzas Smith, I have just one question for you. Did you tell Mrs. Malden about the affair between her husband and your wife? No, sir, I didn't tell you. However, to be honest, I found out who her friend was and that he was married. I intended to give Mrs. Malden the private investigator's information to try and ruin this idiot's life as well. Cipriano smiled slightly as he spoke. Yes, I probably would have done the same. Moreover, Hudson told us what his instructions were. Look, Mr. T. Smith, it looks like you're off the hook. Hudson was right. The evidence he gave us led us to whoever carried out the attack. They are in custody and both confessed. Seriously, who did this? Well, I shouldn't say, but damn, it'll be all over the news by tomorrow anyway. It was Mrs. Malden and her brother. Damn, how did she know? Same as you. He told her what he was going to do. Apparently, this was the third time he had pulled this trick. For some twisted reason, he liked to rub her nose in his infidelity. And apparently, she just couldn't stand it anymore. So she told her brother, who has quite a long list of violent crimes, and they came up with a plan together. Looks like Malden didn't have a hall pass. Hey, out of morbid curiosity, could you tell me about his condition? No, unfortunately, I cannot do this. The only thing I can tell you is that it was the brother's job to take care of Mr. and Mrs. Fortitude. Malden was to take care of your wife. The brother is much larger and stronger than the mistress. Although, to be fair, the wife used a heavier bat than her brother. In any case, I am truly sorry for your troubles. I won't bother you anymore. Good day. The sense of relief Nevada felt was immeasurable. He collapsed into a chair to catch his breath. He was shaking all over. He wondered what his life would have been like in the next few weeks if it weren't for spying on his wife. It was too scary to think about. The relief that he was no longer a suspect did nothing to soften his anger at Pillar. The next few weeks passed in a blur. Detective Cipriano was right. The story was all over the local news and ran for days. Nevada returned to work, and the children returned to school, which was about to end for the summer holidays. Around the same time, he received a call from the hospital and was told that his wife had regained consciousness, was asking about her family, and wanted to see everyone. The head nurse said she could only have one visitor at a time. They also warned him that she would experience confusion and possibly major memory lapses. Nevada went to her alone without telling the children. He did this for two reasons. First of all, he wanted to talk to her alone, and secondly, to make sure that seeing their mother's physical condition did not traumatize them too much. When he arrived at the hospital, he was shocked by Pillar's condition. She was covered in devices, tubes, casts, and bandages. The parts of his body that he could see, including his face, were still covered in bruises. He wasn't sure if the bruises were from the beating or from the 3 surgeries she'd had. But she could talk. Even though the nurses had prepared him, when he entered Pillar's room, his breath caught in his throat. Even without taking into account her injuries, Pillar, who had always been a gorgeous woman, now looked exhausted. It was quite disturbing, and he wasn't sure the children should see her like that. Fuck it, they're old enough now. Either way, it will do her good. She heard him enter and turned her head slightly in his direction. She was silent, but there were tears in her eyes. She could only wipe them with her left hand, since her right hand was still immobilized. Damn it, Pillar, you look like crap. Next time you use your hall pass, make sure your lover has one too. He knew that he was acting stupidly, but it was easier for him, and he didn't care. If anything, his number one emotion was still anger. She croaked, "I'm sorry," in a barely audible voice. Yes. Look, Pillar, I don't want to stay here any longer than I have to. As soon as you are transferred from intensive care, I will file for divorce. I would have done it earlier, but the hospital won't allow it. I'll ask the kids to come. They can't wait to see you. Right now, I'm too busy thinking about how to avoid financial ruin to worry about your health. But somehow I'll figure it out. You know, thanks to you, because of all those damn hospital bills, Suzanne won't be able to go to UCLA now. You did it, Pillar. You destroyed your marriage and your family's financial security. So no, I don't feel sorry for you one bit, so go to hell. Could you be a little more understanding, Nevada? I'm hurt, I'm sorry, and I want to find a way to repair our marriage. I love you. She could only speak in a hoarse whisper. It's too late, honey. This will never happen. I'm so angry at you for what you did to us that it takes all my self-control to remain polite. Goodbye, Pillar. He turned and left. He never returned to the hospital. A few days later, at the dinner table, Nevada said, "Children, it's time for a family meeting. Tomorrow your mother is being transferred from intensive care, and I'm going to serve her with divorce papers." "Dad, you're kidding me. Are you going to give your mom the divorce papers in the hospital? You can't be that cruel." "It has nothing to do with cruelty, Suzanne. It has to do with timing and not filing for bankruptcy." You all want to continue living in this house. Do you want to go to college? Well, we will have to make some serious sacrifices to make this possible. You see, I consulted with the lawyers and the hospital, and this is exactly the case. Your mom has her own insurance, but that won't matter even if we get divorced. Since we were married when these bills came up, I am still responsible for what her insurance doesn't cover, just as much as she is. And believe me, the uncovered part will be huge. This will not change until the divorce is finalized. Also, we don't have long-term care insurance, so that's where the real costs will fall. So I need to finalize the divorce as soon as possible to minimize the long-term financial impact on our family. I'm very sorry, but this is the harsh truth. My lawyer is considering suing your mother's boyfriend to recover costs, but I suspect that won't go far. His medical expenses will far exceed your mom's, so this probably won't help. Besides, his wife is going to divorce him anyway, although I'm not sure how she can do that from prison. And one more thing, I have met with your mother's medical staff, and we need to have a serious conversation about her condition. At this moment, his attention was focused on all three of them. There is a high probability that your mother will be confined to a wheelchair for a long time, if not for life. Due to brain damage, she will likely never be able to fully care for herself again. At a minimum, she will require home care for several years. She faces months of rehabilitation and years of physical therapy and other treatments. The children were horrified, but not too shocked. After all, they visited her and saw firsthand how much she had suffered. In general, this is what we will do. Nevada talked about his plans for about 20 minutes. Ultimately, the children agreed that this was perhaps the only reasonable course of action. When he finished, Suzanne said sadly, "I don't think Usk is in my future, do you, Dad?" "No, honey, no, but I promise that you will go to the state university. It's much cheaper, and there are more grants and scholarships you can apply for to help offset the cost. Besides, I know you want to help your mom, so instead of 1,000 miles, you'll only drive 30 minutes. You can live at home, so you don't have to pay for a hostel." "I know, Dad. Everything will work out for the best." 5 years later. "You know that I love you, but Dad, you have lost your humanity. There's a big hole where your soul used to be. Listen to me, Suzanne. Every time I think I've come to terms, as you say, I get another hospital bill that I'm still responsible for. Every week they take 20% of my salary to pay for the civil lawsuits against us. We're hopelessly behind on our house payments, but at least I got it furnished with Nessa's help, so they won't be able to kick us out for quite some time. In the meantime, I'm trying to restructure my mortgage to delay the inevitable. Nessa even does most of her work for us free of charge. Your brother Steve dropped out of college and joined the military. Every month he sends half of his salary home to help. Do you know what he told me when he joined the army? He said that one of the reasons he did this was so that we would no longer have to spend money on feeding him. Your brother Pat works part-time flipping hamburgers. He gives me his entire salary every week to contribute. And look at you. This must be the time of your life, but you still haven't graduated from college because you had to work part-time. You devote all your free minutes to taking care of your mother instead of having fun. The grass in the front yard is 2 feet high because I can't afford to fix the lawnmower. I'm surprised the neighbors haven't yet submitted a petition to the Residents Association to kick us out. I make a 6-figure income and we're on food stamps. I implore every nonprofit and social service organization every week to find more money to pay for your mom's care. We have one 10-year-old beat-up car that's held together by chewing gum and wire. If you think so, why did you even let her live with us? You haven't said a single kind word to your mom in 4 years. You didn't even look at her. If she appears in the same room, you leave. It's like she's a recluse in her own home. This doesn't make any sense. There are several reasons. No matter what she does, she is still a mother to you and your brothers. And as you know, you are all, to one degree or another, involved in her care, even after all these years. And secondly, my motivation is revenge. She will see Josie and I making love every day of her life. Every day for the rest of her life, she will be reminded of what she gave up in order to try sex with another man. The vengeful part of me still comes out from time to time, and I want to make Pillar sit in the chair in our bedroom and watch Josie, and I make love in what used to be her bed. I would do the same, but I'm sure Josie would throw me out of the house. All that aside, the real reason is to save money. Nursing care can cost up to $7,000 a month. It is obvious that she will not be able to afford this even with government assistance. Do you want your mom to live in one of those private nursing homes? You've seen what they are. And to be clear, this is not her home anymore. I'm just letting her stay because I don't want your mom dying in some cardboard box under a freeway overpass. No, Suzanne, your mother burned all the compassion out of me. I may be part zombie, but there's nothing I can do about it. You're wrong, Dad. You still have some compassion left in you. I'm sure Josie wouldn't have married you if you didn't have it. But she and I talk often, and we worry about you. 5 years have passed, and you still have so much anger in you that it's scary. You have to let go of your bitterness and somehow make your way through it all. I want my father back. She had tears in her eyes and deep sadness. You can't continue like this. You have a wonderful new wife and family around you. Focus on the future, not the past. I beg you, it's not for her sake. She did what she did, and she is who she is. Don't you think she paid a pretty high price for one stupid decision she made 5 years ago? No, I do not think so. For God's sake, Dad, she lost everything that was dear to her and remained crippled for life. And that's not enough for you? Listen to yourself. Suzanne walked away in disgust, shaking her head. Intellectually, Nevada knew his daughter was right. Josie pursued him for the same reason. He was sure they were planning an intervention soon. He simply saw no way out for himself. He had hypertension and was taking medication. He gained 20 pounds. How the hell can you gain 20 pounds if you can't even afford to eat? The doctor warned him about the worsening of the ulcer. His anger often kept him up at night. Sometimes he wondered if his family would be better off if he just died. At least he had a $500,000 life insurance policy that could help pay the bills. Of course, he did not have time to pay for them either. Later that evening, as they lay in bed, Josie began to work on him again. They had just finished a pleasant lovemaking session, and Josie, as was her habit, lay with her head on his shoulder, running her fingers through the thick hair on her husband's chest. This was the only time Nevada was calm. He was so grateful that he met Josie at his wife's rehab center. He knew that without her love and support, he would have fallen apart. Nevada, honey, I talked to Suzanne today, and I want to tell you that if you even hint at Pillar watching us in bed, I will castrate you with a rusty knife. She said it casually, but the meaning of her words did not escape him. She grew up in a very tough area, so he was confident that she could do it. Besides, why do women always threaten men to deprive them of their manhood? I know. My anger got the better of me and… Nevada, I don't care. I tried my best to help you, but it wasn't enough. I'm tired of trying and tired of only getting a part of you in return. How do you think this makes me feel? For me, your anger is a constant reminder that you have not forgotten Pillar. What? This is not true at all. Why do you even think that? Just let me talk, Nevada. Rather, you cannot forget what Pillar did to you. She stopped stroking his chest and put her hand over his heart. I'll wait a few more months, but this can't go on. If you don't give me your all soon, I will leave you. I give much more than I receive from you. It's not fair. I'm even helping take care of your ex-wife. I deserve more from you. She wasn't angry, didn't raise her voice. She was just incredibly sad. When I first saw you at the rehab center, I felt an instant attraction. I've never seen anyone in so much pain. As we got to know each other better, I realized how much you love your family. You had problems and a lot of pent-up anger, but I knew that you were a kind, decent person. We've been married for over 2 years, Nevada, and your problems haven't improved. Moreover, they have become even worse. Please don't think I'm sounding like Pillar, who gave you an ultimatum. But I can't live like this anymore. It hurts too much. I need you to do something to bring back the man I fell in love with. Please, Josie, I'll try. Don't even think about leaving. I would be lost without you. I don't like who I am either, but I don't know what to do. I tried to see a psychologist. Hell, I even tried drinking, but neither helped. Tell me, what can I do? It's actually very simple, Nevada. There is an ancient Chinese proverb that says, "A journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step." What the hell does that mean? This means that you just need to start being kinder. With these words, Josie stroked his chest, kissed him lightly on the lips, got out of bed, and went to the bathroom to shower. She always did this after sex, even though Nevada asked her not to. He loved the way she smelled and never wanted it to go away. Nevada was annoyed and was about to attack Josie for being so stupid, but wisely decided not to. Start being kinder, what nonsense. He knew he had to do something. He couldn't risk losing Josie. He just couldn't. He knew that she was the only thing keeping him from stepping into the abyss. 2 days later, Nevada is no closer to solving its problems. Josie and Suzanne behaved the same as always and no longer showed themselves in conversations. However, he was looking forward to Sunday dinner because Steve had the weekend off and could join the family. Nevada and his sons enjoyed drinks and quiet conversation, while Josie and Suzanne prepared dinner to be served. "Guys, dinner is ready," Josie exclaimed. They proceeded to the dining room and headed to their usual seats. Isn't it funny how families always have assigned places for meals? Nevada and Josie always sat at opposite ends of the table, the boys on the left and Suzanne on the right, next to Josie. Nevada noticed that instead of 5 plates, there were 6. He simply assumed that one of the children had a visitor, which happened often, although Nevada grumbled about the extra expenses. And then he saw Suzanne leading Pillar, who was still using a cane to get around, into the dining room. His instinct told him to get up and leave, but Suzanne pushed him back to his seat. She helped Pillar sit on the chair next to him and then sat down herself. Pillar never joined them for meals. Nevada demanded that it be so. You could have heard a pin drop. Nevada felt his face flush and his anger began to boil over again. He saw that the whole family was looking at him. Pillar simply looked at her plate. Thanks for inviting me to join you for dinner, Nevada." One of the many problems that Pillar still faced was control of speech. He didn't quite understand, but doctors told him that the head injury had disrupted the communication between her brain and her vocal cords. She has been working with a speech therapist for several years now, and the situation is gradually improving. Nevada looked hard at Josie, then at Suzanne. Now he knew that this was the very intervention he had been waiting for. Their gazes did not leave his eyes. They were as determined as he was. He just shook his head slightly. "Just start being kinder. I'm glad you were able to join us tonight, Pillar. I noticed that your speech is improving." "Yes, that's it. I think. Nevada reached out and quickly patted Pillar on the arm and smiled briefly. He felt his anger begin to melt. Nevada looked around at his accomplices, not knowing whether they were smiling or smirking at him. Except for Stephen, who clearly had no idea what was happening because he sat frozen in place with his fork half filled with food, his eyes wide in shock at what had just happened. No one was actually talking or moving. Josie broke the awkward silence. "You know, Pillar, now that you'll be joining us for meals regularly, I think it's time for you to help us prepare them." Josie looked at Nevada with an expression that screamed, "Let me help you. I know that you love to cook. You seem to be getting around pretty well. Do you think you can handle it?" Pillar didn't answer, but quickly glanced at Nevada. "I think this is a great idea, Pillar. You are part of the family, and everyone should participate in its life." "If you feel ready for it, you should do it," Nevada said. It was as if someone had flipped a switch and his hostility disappeared. "Just start being kinder." Tears welled in her eyes, and she reached out her hand to Nevada, and he quickly squeezed it in response. Okay, I will. Subscribe to our channel so that your love doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think click to the next one.